Stangibilisco here. This concerns the Beginner's Guide to Reading Schematics, the 3rd and the 4th editions, published by McGraw-Hill and authored by yours truly. Last night, a reader of one of these editions, he did not specify which, but I presume, well, it doesn't really matter, because his conundrum had to do with the experiments section, where you have the wooden breadboard and everything like that, and the components that are used in those experiments. Well, between the 3rd and the 4th editions, one of the parts suppliers, one of the most important parts suppliers that we had for that edition, the 3rd edition, went out of business, and that was Radio Shack. And the table, one of the tables in the last chapter, Let's Learn by Doing, I believe it's called in the 3rd edition. And in the 4th edition, it's called, there's your 4th edition. In the 4th edition, that chapter is called Diagrams for Building and Testing. And there's it starts on page 137 in the 4th edition, and it lists parts suppliers. Page 137 is where it starts. And it has a table, and a bunch of tables actually. Table 6-1, components list for electricity experiments. And where I used to say Radio Shack and have a Radio Shack part number in the 3rd edition, now it simply says online vendor. Like, you're on your own. You gotta find this part some other way besides Radio Shack. Maybe a hardware store, maybe a Mauser or one of the other vendors. But this reader couldn't find the 7.5 volt screw-in base incandescent lamp. And that's because it was a Radio Shack part in the 3rd edition, and now Radio Shack no longer exists, and so he's having a devil of a time finding this component. Apparently there is no such. Nobody else sells a 7.5 volt, did I say inch? 7.5 volt screw-in base lamp. So I suggested that he use 2 lower voltage lamps in series or something like that. But it brings up a conundrum that I'm going to have to address should there ever be another edition of this book. Now, the book is doing very well despite this, and this reader is the first person who's ever pointed this problem out. But the demise of Radio Shack has caused some parts availability issues for parts that were used in the 3rd edition and no longer exist for the 4th edition, involving this last chapter, Experiments, or Let's Learn by Doing. So my suggestion to you is that you kind of wing it. That's really all I can tell you. I don't know where I would find a 7.5 volt screw-in base lamp. It's a miniature lamp like you would have in a flashlight. The only thing I can think of is I use a couple of lower voltage lamps or just redesign the whole experiment. But I just sort of brushed this. I guess this viewer thinks I sort of brushed him off, and he wasn't very happy about that, so I apologize for that. But I should bring up the fact that you are going to have problems finding the exact components in some of these experiments, and my only suggestion to you is wing it on your own, because I really don't know exactly what I would do, and I think for the next edition I'm going to have to come to some kind of a decision about what I am going to do. If there is a next edition, as I said, there may never be a next edition because this one's selling pretty well. The Beginner's Guide to Reading Schematics, 4th edition. The main point of the book is to teach you how to read schematic diagrams anyway, so the heck with the last chapter. Just tear it out. Ha! The heck with it. I'm not really serious, of course. Stan Gibilisco, signing off for now. Until next time, so long.